Welcome to the Tunis School of Regulation interviews about digital markets and regulatory challenges in this particular field. Today with us to discuss the relationship between the evolution of this platform economy and antitrust and regulation. With us we have Meltem Bagis Akkaya. Uh, Ciao Meltem, thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Ciao Franco, always a pleasure, always.
Meltem is head of the Department of Strategy and Planning, which covers also digital economy at the Turkish Competition Authority. So it's a real pleasure to have a point of view that combines digital economy and antitrust issue. So my first question, Meltem, is if you can give us, from your point of view, a kind of scenario about the evolution of digital markets or platform economy or the so-called sharing economy, a term, a definition that we at the Tunis School we don't like very much. But if you can give us a kind of resume of the animals that live in these ecosystems, and then we will follow to discuss the challenges for the public policy.
Well, Franco, thank you for the invitation, first of all. It's always been a big pleasure to be engaged in Turin School's activities. But let me tell you, from my perspective as an antitrust enforcer and as a professor of digital economy, what's going on in technology markets. So in the last years, we have seen amazing developments in technology markets that we have never lived before. There are companies now which call themselves platforms, or if you like, online platforms, or if you like, digital platforms, or from a professor's view, multi-sided platforms that have interesting characteristics. According to our understanding of neoclassical economy, a private company, has its ultimate goal, ultimate target to maximize its profits. Straightforward. But these companies do not follow this pattern. For them, in the short to medium run, all they are after is to increase their number of users instead of increasing their profits. They're not profit oriented. They are totally data driven. All they want to do is to increase the number of users, which confers into big data. And these number of users confers market power to these companies. So this is the first time the economy and the competition enforcers, regulators, we are all struck by these challenges. We have never seen companies like this before. They are huge. This basic concept of data-driven characteristics made them have a market share in the market easily, in the relevant markets easily, and then they get bigger and bigger until they become dominant in the relevant markets. Think of Google. And these companies, since they are not profit-oriented in the short to medium run, they provide all their services free. Think of Google Search, it's free. Think of Facebook, it's free. Think of Uber, it's free for the end users. So that's another thing that distinguishes these companies from other private companies. So now we have companies, if you like, platforms, multi-sided platforms, who are basing their decisions on data, on processing and collecting data. And then in the long run, they become dominant easily. And their structure is quite interesting. They have high upfront sunk costs and low marginal costs, which means that it's very difficult to establish these kind of companies. And then once they're established, once they're operational, they become big enough in a short time. So these companies and these challenges, they pose challenges for us, for competition enforcers and regulators. There are types of these companies. Some of them are marketplaces like Amazon. Some of them are sharing companies. We don't like the term, but let's, in order to simplify our understanding, they are sharing companies like Airbnb, Uber, whatever you like, or whatever local ones you have in your own country. Then you have search engines like Google. Then you have, which amazingly, you have these social networking companies, which are also multi-sided platforms. So let me give you an example of how the scenario has changed in less than 10 years. So in the year, only in 2009, there was only one technology company in the top 10 global most valuable list, which was Microsoft. In less than 10 years, in the year 2018, we had 7 technology companies, 7 most precious, most valuable companies in the list, which are Facebook. Let me tell you one by one. Which is, the first one is Apple. Then you had Alphabet, which is Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Tencent, which is the Chinese game company. Then we have Alibaba, the Chinese marketplace, which the Chinese equivalent of Amazon. Then you have Facebook. So these 7 companies have replaced all of the famous banking and all of the insurance companies away from the list. And what is Facebook indeed? What is Facebook? Doesn't create any content. It's just something, it's a software that you upload your pictures. That's it. Or what is, let us say, what is Google? It's a search engine. These companies provide you free service. Or as a consumer, as an end consumer, you think that the products you receive are free because you don't pay. They're free of charge. Instead, you are selling your own personal data to these companies, consciously or unconsciously, which in return, these companies are selling to advertisers. So there's an interesting cost and operation structure of these companies. This is why we haven't been able to understand what was going on in the market for a long period of time. What happened in 2014 was quite a challenge for us. It was an enlightenment for all of us. In 2014, Facebook WhatsApp merger happened, which made us question our merger regulations. It wasn't caught up by any of the competition authorities globally. Then we have checked what's going on in the market, and we've seen that 5 big companies, or these 5 tech, if you like, Amazon, Google, Facebook, or the famous big tech, they have made more than 400, can you believe this? 400 mergers and acquisitions in the market in less than 10 years. So we have started, as Forces competition people, we've started checking what's happening in technology markets. Then we saw that, oh my God, Facebook, which is just a Facebook for you, has acquired more than 80 startups. So the scenario is amazing when it comes to Google. Google, for everyone, what is Google for you? It's a search engine for me. It's a mailing company for someone else. It's YouTube for someone else. So it's shopping, Google shopping for another consumer. Google has acquired more than 200 companies and wasn't seen or wasn't checked or wasn't being, none of these companies, none of these merger activities was blocked by anyone. That was an interesting moment for us. So starting by this famous Facebook WhatsApp merger, competition people started changing their mindsets. We said, okay, there is something going on in technology markets. There are these companies, these platforms, multi-sided platforms, most of them are free of charge to end users, are becoming dominant. They are collecting our data, and we have no correct means of, if you like, taming them. What should we do? Merger regulation obviously doesn't catch them. So abuse of dominance doesn't apply. We should ask, why doesn't it apply? Because our understanding of competition, our recent understanding of competition, relies on the fact of consumer welfare standards, which means that in order a practice to be considered as anti-competitive, it should have either a consumer harm or in the form of prices, which is higher prices. So we were up to now measuring a competition infringement in terms of price. But these companies, they don't charge you. They are free of price. How are you going to claim that Google is pricing you unfairly? Google is charging you high because you don't pay. As a consumer, I don't pay. Even if you pay, think of Amazon, for example, as a marketplace platform. Even if it pays, even if it charges prices, these prices are fluctuating every time. Think of Amazon prices. They are collecting your big data, and the algorithms they use are making amazingly quick adjustment to quick changes of demand. So which price are you going to base your decision on? There are thousands of prices to thousands of millions of different people. Which price, even if there is a price, which price is to be used? So that was an amazing time for all of us, which made up in the last 5 to 6 years, we have started thinking we have to do something. So what is it? First of all, countries, pioneering companies like Germany, France, Austria, they have amended their laws. So Germany said, listen, Germany said, we are unable to catch WhatsApp Facebook merger, and that's a big merger. And why didn't we catch it? Because these companies, they are high in number of users, but in revenues, they're not as high as they should deserve. Their market value is a lot bigger than their turnovers. And all of the merger regulations are designed according to turnover thresholds. So they said, okay, let us change this merger regulation into transaction value so that we can catch these companies. That's fine. So that we can analyze how a merger between Facebook and WhatsApp was possible. Thinking of the sale number of the sales transaction value of the acquired parties. That was fine. That was a good step forward. So Germany was the first one to do it. Then came Austria, they did it. And then France this year said, it's an interesting thing. France said, I don't care what the thresholds are. I don't care if it's a turnover based or it's a transaction based, transaction value based. I'm gonna check all the mergers that is happening in the digital economy, whatever their size is, whoever they are. That's a bit too tightening of the market, but they are trying it, Then there were people who said, okay, merger is fine, we're gonna adjust to it. How about the abuse of dominance? Abuse of dominance is not easy because market concentration, because what these platforms are doing is, since they are data-driven, they are gathering and collecting and processing data, and everything is based on data. So it's the data rather than the market, it gives them the dominance. So it's not easy to understand how they are abusing their dominant structure in the market. So we have now, many countries are working on a system saying that rather than price, we have to include data. Why don't we focus on data, collecting of data, the data and market share relationship? Again, the pioneers are the Germans. So there is another country like Belgium. They said, okay, why don't we use a term like economic dependence? Use economic dependence in order to understand the relationship. That's another one. So almost all of the countries, including my country, Turkey, we have started doing market inquiries into digital sectors in order to understand how we can deal with these companies because they are fast. To tell you the truth, competition enforcement is always exposed. So we intervene when after something has happened. How about leveling the field then? In that scenario, I personally believe that regulation is much more valuable than antitrust and other means of tools. Why don't we use consumer protection laws? Why don't we use exploitative pricing? Why don't we use fairness in consumer protection? Why don't we use data protection laws in order to sort of tame these countries because companies, since we understood that antitrust rules are not capable of catching them or taming them or responding to the demands of the consumers and the infringements, so they're not adequate. Why don't we use alternative ones? So many countries are now working on a system that is sort of a combination of consumer protection laws, data protection laws, and competition laws all together. Some also say that sector regulation could be more meaningful in addressing the issues in digital economy. Some countries are focusing on sector regulation. That's another solution, if you like. So we are in a transition period. We are fine. That's the summary, if you like.
Thank you, Meltem. Yeah, a lot of you have raised a lot of issues. It's difficult to pick up one, but let me stress a point that you have touched. That is in the digital markets, some platforms have a privileged position, a particular privileged position. I refer to platforms that match demand and supply, but at the same time extracting information from suppliers and from buyers became players with privileged information and can use this privileged information to hinder competition, to copy products, and in a way to abuse of their market power. Obviously, I'm referring to Amazon, and I'm referring to the new antitrust school in USA, in particular raised by Lina Khan, about the price as an insufficient instrument to judge the fairness of market. What do you think personally of this new school of antitrust, and how, in your opinion, can we cope with abuse of giants like Amazon, splitting them, fining them, because fines, as Vestager has said, are always very heavy, but they come late and they cannot success. What is your personal opinion, Meltem?
From my perspective, imposing fines is not enough. If you look at last year's European Commission's hefty fine on Google Android case, it was 1.45 billion euros, 1.5 billion euros. What happened? Google is still there. Google is still the giant, even if maybe it's even more bigger, it's even bigger than it used to be now for the time being. So imposing fines doesn't work, that's for sure. Well, I'm not on the divesting side. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's better to take a precaution before an infringement happens. So it's good if you are an ex-ante player. So it's good to have a network. It's good to have a framework designed to tame these companies before they do an infringement. Think of Amazon. Amazon is the biggest one. Or think of Facebook now. I told you that in 2014, Facebook WhatsApp merger. And what happened? Do you think Facebook stopped there? No, last year it acquired Instagram in order to compete with Twitter. So now you have the giant WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. So it still keeps on going and it still keeps on living. So my personal understanding is to put a lot of emphasis on, first of all, on merger regulation. Try to stop these companies before they acquire startups and they get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Now, second one, if there is nothing you can do, if it's already happened, like in the case of Facebook or Google, if it's already happened, now we have to design new competition rules based on data rather than price in order to fight them. Because the understanding should be, my understanding at least, is the mindset The trust mindset, the classical mindset, is all based on price. Doesn't understand what happens on the data side.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So you have to
Okay.
change your mindset, and
Yeah,
you have to understand that this sector is dynamic. So in order to respond to dynamic moves, you have to be dynamic as well. With static competition rules, you're unable. You have to extend the rules much as
yeah,
possible.
yeah.
I'm on the extending side, and I'm quite in favor of using available tools and amending tools. Why not? I mean, it's
Yeah.
not the Constitution. Competition law is not the Constitution. It can be amended.
Meltem, sticking on theoretical issues,
Right,
competition and regulation have been our sisters, we know.
right.
And in the past, they have sometimes cooperated, sometimes quarreled about methods and the field of application. My impression, and I will ask you if you agree, is that in the future, competition and industrial regulation should become more sister, more cooperative to cope with these extraordinary times. What do you think about?
That's an excellent question, Franco. Thank you for raising it. I personally believe that in the past, competition and regulation, sometimes we fought a lot. And they were sisters, but they were fighting sisters all the time. Certain times when the parents intervened, they were in peace, but certain on times they were fighting. But for the time being, since we have the same, if you like, enemies, which are big tech, we have to cooperate. Now we are cooperating fully. So competition should be cooperating fully with regulators, local regulators and national regulators. So we have to be twins now. Competition,
Yeah,
right? We have to be
good,
twins.
good. Not sister, but
Right,
twins. Twins is the right definition.
right. We have to
And
be twins now, rather than
yeah,
because
yeah,
we are
yeah, twins.
sisters. We have to also have a small sister, which is data protection law, and we have to have consumer protection law as well. So all in all, we have to be intertwined as we have never before. So competition and regulation are good sisters and twins.
I will, I will steal this definition for the tuning school with your permission,
Thank you.
and
My pleasure.
pay no copyright. By the way, for our audience, Meltem is one of historical teachers and lecturers at the Turing School of Regulation. This, the edition, the 2020 edition of our summer school has been postponed to 2021, and I'm sure that we will have Meltem with us next year. Meltem, back to data. The framework question about data is who owns the data first? And the second is uh, how far can we move toward paying for personal data extraction, and if this is a viable and morally acceptable policy that we can adopt.
Well, personal data is quite an interesting topic. It's not easy to have a judgment. It depends on the certain cases. First of all, what is personal data? We always agree on cookies, right? It asks you questions. It says, do you give consent? And you say, I give consent. And then that platform tells you that, okay, it's no longer your personal data because you gave me your consent to use your data. Or think of Instagram or Facebook. Is there any private data now? You yourself are uploading all of your personal pictures. Not only the pictures, the time of the name of the restaurant that you dined, the picture of the food you dined, who are you with? So personal data issue is a bit tricky for the time being. Plus, who owns the data? That's a nice question. Are we owning our own data, or is it now part of the big data? All of your moves that you are making as soon as you wake up, all of the moves you do are part of the big data now, without you knowing it consciously. You wake up, you check your Gmail. That's the big data. You don't even remember what you are doing. Then you do Facebook. And then Facebook. You put your pictures, and then you make a search on Google search. It adds to your personal identification, so that Facebook can give you more suggestions. You make a shopping, and the shopping site. I did it yesterday. I was shopping online, and the shopping the company, the platform asked me. It said, "Do you want to log in as a member or as your Facebook?" Why does this platform ask me? What's it got to do with my Facebook profile? But then I said, okay, because it needs your user data. It needs all of your connections. Once you log in with your Facebook profile, it's going to extract all your Facebook friends and family, whatever you have in your Facebook profile, and it will add to its database. So it's with you knowing or without you knowing it, your data is already sold, transferred, changed in the hands, many hands. So it's not easy. I don't know. And then there is the question of how are we going to stop this? And that seems to be the job of a regulator, data regulator right now. Someone has to step in.
Yeah.
To us. Otherwise, we're all naked.
Yeah, I agree completely. Meltem, a last question. Do you think that how much geopolitics, sorry for rising the level so abruptly, but how much geopolitics is relevant in shaping antitrust, competition and regulation in digital markets that are by definition markets with no frontiers?
Right. Well, geopolitics, it depends from where you look at. If you look at from the European Union perspective, it looks like Europeans are attacking all these American companies, the five big, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Google. These companies are all American. They were born in California, Silicon Valley. So it looks like the world, not only the world, but especially the European is attacking US companies. This is the understanding of the USA people. They look to the picture and they said, let me give you an example. Google's shopping case was also opened in the US, and then they closed it. They said there's no infringement here. Instead, in the European level, the same case, and also in my country, in Turkey, the same abuse, the same company, it's the Google, it's the abuse of dominance, again, the same company, the same type of abuse, and that was fined very heavily. So it depends how countries are looking at these innovative companies. It looks like from the US side, US understanding is more flexible. They think they are innovative technology companies, no more than intermediaries, but us, Turks, Australians, Europeans, we are more cautious when it comes to these companies. And then when the picture is even more clear, if you look at sharing companies, let us now turn our attention to sharing companies, sharing economy companies. Look how Uber was treated in US and how it was treated in my country, Turkey, and how it was treated in Italy and Europe. Uber runs all of the US now without any problems. But in Europe, it was either banned or its popular service, Uber Pop, was banned. In my country, Uber is banned totally. So we seem to be more cautious in these kind of platforms. We seem to be more limiting their activities, but in the US, they are freely moving, of course, not without any regulations.
Yeah.
With local regulations, like if you take New York City, it is very limiting, but then if you look at California, they are quite flexible. So in our, so geopolitics, that's a question. And the thing is, the travel-related platforms, well, up to now, they were welcomed happily because everybody liked Airbnb. That was an excellent service. We liked it. It gave us the opportunity to see someone else's, to stay in someone else's house in the middle of the town, lower than the price of a good hotel. Or we were hiring Uber, we were using car sharing, Enjoy, and what was the other one in Italy? Enjoy, and what was the next company? There was a car sharing.
Maybe. Don't remember.
Car2Go, Car2Go.
Car2Go, yeah,
And
yeah.
Enjoy, right. We were using Car2Go. Everything was running perfectly. We were taking low-cost flights. And then this COVID started. It has shattered our life. All the travel-related companies, including platforms, are now in dire straits.
Yeah.
Uber is losing a lot of money because there is no demand for it right now. People cannot share someone else's car right now. We are all cautious. Or are you ready to stay in someone else's house in the time of a COVID? A hotel is sort of better in terms
or sharing a car with BlaBlaCar.
Would you do that now? BlaBlaCar, would
It's
you do it?
difficult.
Most of us not.
For
Plus, not
sure.
only it's our choice, but it's the regulation that stops us. In my country, we have, starting from March, no international or intercity flights. Everything is stopped. We don't have, on certain days of the week, we are locked down inside. There is no mobility. So these companies are in danger. And in June, as of mid-June, it looks like all the flights are reopening, but with new rules, new regulations. They're going to be more limiting.
Yeah, yeah.
So all these platforms, they are facing difficult times. But then something interesting happened in my country. People were thinking that Airbnb is gone, since nobody is ready to dine in and stay in someone else's house. But then something interesting happened. People flooded to book Airbnb houses for summer, because it looks like it becomes your house for 2 weeks. You can clean that house as soon as you step in, because you are not staying with a lot of people. You don't have hundreds of tourists like in the hotel. It's your house now.
Yeah.
More comfortable now. So it looks like, well, my understanding always is sectors, economy, the demand, no, the supply, always responds immediately to the changing of demand. So invisible hand again plays its role, and then right, you have new rules.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
right.
In a way, you are right. In a way, you are right.
Okay, of course, not in. I don't know how these car sharing and ride sharing companies are going to survive, at least for this summer.
But you know that Hertz is filing for bankruptcy.
But they are.
And probably some companies will follow Hertz filing for bankruptcy. And so sharing, the so-called sharing, for sure in the future will meet dire times. Dire times.
But then they have taken new forms in my country. Sharing companies, the local sharing company, started using food delivery as an alternative because it didn't have any other alternative. So it became a food delivery, or it acquired the startup, the food delivery startup, the kids with bikes, like the Uber Eats. So it finds a way to survive. Of course, things are not, it's not clear. It's too soon to say anything. They are having a difficult time, but perhaps some of them would adjust. And my understanding is the most difficult one would be the airlines regulations.
Okay.
Right, you wouldn't want to fly with someone next to you as it was in the past.
So, okay.
That's just a basic assumption, though. Totally behavioral economics approach, though. Nothing based on facts, because we have no facts right now.
Okay. We have talked with Meltem Bagis Akkaya, that is the head of the Department of Strategy and Planning at Turkish Competition Authority. I am Franco Beckis, Scientific Director of Turing School of Regulation. I invite our audience to follow turingschool.eu for other interviews in the next weeks and web seminars, all dedicated to regulation and services and digital markets and environment. For the time being, I have to thanks Meltem for being with us, hoping to have you in the 2021 edition of our summer school. Meltem, ciao from Torino,
Ciao, Franco. Ciao from Turkey. Ciao.
and see you soon on turingschool.eu.